Hello, what's up YouTube photographer ronnixphotography, and in this tutorial you are going to be learning high-end skin retouching using frequency separation in Photoshop. So if at all you are a beginner out there and you'd love to learn and understand how to edit and retouch your photos using frequency separation, this is the best tutorial for you. And as a bonus, we're going to also be color grading this very image in Photoshop. So stick around and don't forget to hit the like button, because when you hit the like button, it helps you to push and recommend this video to many people out there. So you can see it's a before after. This is what we're going to be achieving by the end of this very video. So if at all you'd love to get the image for practice purposes, I'm also going to put a link in the description of this very video. And this image is taken by Peter DeVito. It's not my photo. So in order to edit, I'm just going to delete this. So in order to edit an image into Photoshop, what you're going to be doing first of all is open up the image in Photoshop. So if at all you want to open a photo in Photoshop, make sure to have opened up the Photoshop application or software and simply drag and drop the image and drop it in Photoshop. Or you can simply look for the image, right click and select open with or edit with and select Photoshop, and it's going to open up to this very point. So as you can see, this is the image that we have, and before retouching it, the very first thing we have to take into consideration or consider is cleaning up the image and removing the blemishes in this very image. So in order to remove blemishes, what we want to do, we're just going to come and create a copy from the background layer by pressing Ctrl J, or you can use Command J on the keyboard to create a copy, because usually when you're editing, we don't want to work on the background layer itself. So after creating this, the next thing is going to be cleaning up the blemishes, and we have a couple of tools that we can use to remove or clean up the blemishes from this very image, and these tools are located right here. So just right click here, and where you see the spot healing brush tool, you can see these tools right here. So usually we use the spot healing brush tool, and the patch tool. So for this case, I'm just going to be showing you how you can use the patch tool to remove pimples or blemishes, and it is going to be giving you the best result. So just come and simply right click and select the patch tool. So whichever tool you select in Photoshop, the settings are always going to be showing above here. So make sure it is right here in new selection. The patch is set to normal, source and the destination right there. Then make sure the diffusion is set to 5. And after doing that, if at all the patch tool is showing a plus icon, simply press the caps lock key on the keyboard to activate the patch icon. So in order to clean up and remove these blemishes, we're just going to simply zoom into the image by using Ctrl plus on the keyboard. You have to zoom all the way in to where you can see blemishes better. So how the patch tool basically works, you simply look for the blemish where it is and simply draw around the blemish to select it, and drag that blemish to a clean area to replace that blemish with clean area that is on the skin. So let me repeat this. So for example, if at all you want to remove this pimple right there, you're just going to left click and draw around the blemish and simply drag that blemish to a clean area near it to replace that blemish with clean skin. So draw and drag, just like that. Draw and drag. So take your time as you're trying to clean up and remove these imperfections. So that is what I'm going to be doing. So I'm trying to clean up and remove these blemishes and skin imperfections from the model's face. So take your time as you're trying to clean up and remove these skin imperfections. So make sure that every area that has blemishes has been cleaned to the maximum. So I'm just going to be cleaning this up just like that. And remember, blemish removal is going to contribute over 80% to your overall edited image. So make sure that you take your time as you're cleaning up and removing these blemishes. So I'm just going to be doing this. So I already removed the blemishes for this very image, and I'll be showing that to you in a few seconds. So I don't want the tutorial to be a long one, but like I've told you, always take your time as you're cleaning up and removing these blemishes and skin imperfections. So right now, this is what we have. Let me show you just the before and after for just what we have removed so far. That's the before, after, and the image looks better. So I have already removed the blemishes. So after you have removed the blemishes, always make sure to merge these layers if at all you wish to. So after merging the layers, so how to merge these layers? Simply come to layer right here and simply come to, you can either use flatten or you can simply merge visible, and you're going to merge these layers into one layer like I have in this case. So this is the image after removing the blemishes. So when you merge the layers, it is going to only have one layer right there, which is the background layer. So the next thing we're going to be doing is simply working and blending on the skin tone transitions to have a better or smooth transition between the skin tones of this very photo. So in order to merge or to blend the skin tone transitions of this very image, you can start to have various skin tone inconsistencies as a result of maybe light patterns and the blemish removal process. So just want to smoothen them out so that we can have a nice and smooth transition between the colors of the skin. So we're going to come to the background layer and simply create two layers by pressing Ctrl J on the keyboard, or you can use Command J. So press Command J twice to create two layers, or you can simply drag the background layer to the new layer icon twice to create two layers. So these two layers are the ones we're going to be using to do the frequency separation. So I'm just going to come and double click this to rename it to low frequency, or you can name it color, and you're going to name the upper layer to high frequency, or you can name it the textures. So let me explain for you what this basically means. In the low frequency layer, we want to remain with the colors, and in the high frequency layer, we only want to remain with the textures or the outlines of the image. So just come and select the low frequency layer right here, and after selecting it, left click on the visibility icon to turn off or hide the high frequency layer. And after hiding it, you are simply going to come right here to filter and come to blur and come to Gaussian blur. So remember, this is the most important step when it comes to editing images and retaining natural and highly realistic skin textures in your images. So when it comes to Gaussian blur, always make sure you take the radius all the way down to 0.1, and you look for an area on the skin that has more skin texture than the rest of the skin. So for this case, I'll just sample the forehead area and use the zoom out button to zoom out until when I can identify the textures better. So what we want to do in this case, we just want to blur out the textures from affecting the low frequency layer or the color layer of the image. So just come to the radius and simply left click and drag up the slider of the radius. So you left click and move it up to the right hand side. So we have to stop at the point whereby the textures are just starting to disappear from the image. So I feel like at around 15, that is when my textures are just starting to disappear. So depending on the image you're working on, the closer the image, the higher the radius, and the farther away the image, the lower the radius. So for this image, I'll be using 15, and you don't have to cram this radius, because when you cram mine, your images may be having a different level of skin details or skin textures. So mine is 15. So we have moved the radius up to the point when we have just started losing out on the skin textures. So if at all you don't want to mess up the frequency separation process, you have to be careful with this first step. So move the radius and stop at the point whereby the textures are just starting to disappear, but you can still identify where they are, and you can still identify the image in general. And after that, just come and click OK. So when you do this, you can notice that the image is looking blurry in this case. So just come and select the high frequency layer and now activate it, and you'll see the details back in the image. But remember, the high frequency layer is also containing colors, but we only want to remain with the details or the textures in the high frequency layer in this case. So what we're going to do, we are simply going to come to image, apply image. So when we come to apply image, you can notice that we have this image right here, or we have a figure right here. We have 8 right here, meaning our image is 8-bit. So if at all the image is 8-bit, simply come and select the low frequency layer, because we want to remove the textures from the low frequency layer. So make sure the channel is set to RGB and invert is not turned on. Select the blend mode to subtract, so click there and select subtract. The opacity is 100%, the scale is 2 and offset 128. Make sure that these two options are not turned on, and you'll see the textures on this gray like kind of layer. Then if at all you're working with a 16-bit image, this is why they differ. For a 16-bit image, if at all you have 16 right there, you use the blend mode of add and turn on the invert option with the scale of 2 and offset 0, opacity at 100%, and you'll have the same result. So mine is 8-bit. I'll change my settings back to subtract. The scale is 2, offset 128, and the invert option is not turned on. And you'll see this gray layer which is only containing the textures. You can see outlines and textures. So simply come and click OK. Now we have an issue once again. You can see that we have this gray kind of layer. So in order to hide the gray color from the image, just come and change the blend mode. Left click and change the blend mode from normal and change it to linear light, and we'll get back the image the way it was meant to be. So after you have done that, the next thing is basically going to be putting these two layers in a group. So select both layers and press Ctrl G on the keyboard to put them in a group, or you can simply drag and drop them into the forward icon to put them in a group. So I'll name the group to frequency separation. So right now what you have to do, you can see that when we hide the background layer, we basically have the same image, but when we open up this group, when we turn these layers off, this is for colors, and when we select this and turn this off, this is for textures. So when we combine both these, we end up with the same image that we started with. So I'll just activate that after. So after doing this, the next thing is going to be blending the skin tone transitions of this very image. So in order to blend the transitions of the skin of this image, we are simply going to come and select the low frequency layer. Remember, skin tones are part of color and colors are part of this low frequency layer. So before working on the skin tones, remember, as we want to target the skin tones, we are distracted by the textures of the image. So just come and hide this briefly so that you can only see the colors of the skin tones right now. So we're going to come to the brushes and right click and get the mixer brush tool. And after selecting the mixer brush tool, if at all your mixer brush tool is not displaying right here, you can find or locate the mixer brush tool just below here. Right click and get the mixer brush tool. So for whichever tool, like I said at the start of the tutorial, that you select in Photoshop, the settings are always going to appear or display above here on the settings or near the task bar. So what we want to do, we want to set up the mixer brush tool. So make sure that you come right here and make sure the hardness is set to 0% and soft round brush is selected. Then just come and left click on the drop icon and make sure clean brush is selected. Then make sure the option that says clean the brush after each and every stroke has been selected, this second option, because when you select the first option, as you're brushing on the skin, it is going to be copying colors from a previous area and painting them on a new area, which we don't want. We want, as you're mixing colors, the brush is automatically cleaned by Photoshop so that we don't carry colors from one area to another. So make sure the option that says clean the brush after each and every stroke has been selected. With a weight of 9%, load of 75, mix at 90 and the flow of 100%. We are simply going to come and start working on the image. So if at all the brush is showing a plus icon, simply deactivate or press the caps lock key on the keyboard. So how to apply the mixer brush tool? We make sure that it is slightly small and don't zoom all the way in as you're applying the mixer brush tool. Retouch the image at a distance. So to work on the forehead area, I'll make sure the brush is as small as possible and mix the colors in that area just like that. So to mix, you simply left click and hold down and follow an area where that color is belonging and blend it just like that. So we have a highlight. If at all you want to mix a new area, left click on the new area and simply continue dragging while holding down the left click button. And if at all you're using a tablet, you can simply paint using your pen. So I'll just come and paint just like that. Come to the shadow area and paint the shadow area. And where these shadows, all these colors are transitioning from one color to another, reduce on the size of the brush by using the bracket keys on the keyboard. So the open and close brackets on the keyboard are going to increase or decrease on the size of the mixer brush tool. But as we're doing this, you can notice that the image is looking a little bit plastic for our liking, but don't mind about that, because right now we just want to perfect the colors in the skin tone. So I'm just going to paint just like that. So make sure the colors are blending well. So when it comes to this shadow area, I'll just come and slightly increase on the size of the brush. So you have to follow the way the shape of the, or you have to follow the direction of how light is falling on the face. So you can see this shadow is moving in this direction. So I'll left click and hold down and blend that shadow area just like that. And release and mix a new area. Left click and hold down and mix that area. Then left click and mix these midtones in this area just like that. Then left click and hold down and mix that. Reduce and blend these colors where they are transitioning from one color to another. Mix that highlight alone just like that. And by the way, if at all you're benefiting, simply hit the like button on this very video, because it helps YouTube push and recommend this video to many people out there. So when you're done mixing this, so if at all you want to check on the progress, just come and turn on or activate the high frequency layer, and you can see the before after. You can see that the textures have been left intact in this image, but we have still perfected the colors in the image. So that's the before after. So I'm going to hide this once again and work on the nose area, reduce on the size and mix the shadow area of the nose. So the nose is moving from up to down, so I'll mix it in that direction to blend the colors on the nose and keep the original shape of the model's face. So left click and mix the brightest point of the nose and mix this other area of the face just like that. So I'll be mixing every area just like that, so that I can have a better looking image at the end of the process. So take your time and identify every area that you feel is having skin tone inconsistencies, and you blend at those areas. So you can even work on the lips and paint slightly to smoothen up the lips a little bit. So increase on the size and work. So you can see I'm going back and forth, and I've not zoomed the image all the way in because I want to see the skin tone imperfections better, and I don't want to distort the original shape of the model's face. So you can see I'll just come and work on those areas. So turn this on and see the progress. So this is what we have right now for the skin retouching. So you can as well work with the texture layer turned on if at all you prefer to do it that way. So right now this is what we have, and let's say before and after. So this is a before after for just the blending of the skin tone transitions. So if at all you still have a couple of blemishes remaining in your image, the next thing is going to be doing the secondary blemish removal process. So just come and select the high frequency layer and right click and get the clone stamp tool, and make sure the hardness is set to 0 and soft round brush is selected. Then make sure the blend mode is normal, opacity and the flat 100%. Make sure align is selected, and make sure the sample is set to current layer, because you only want to remove the blemishes that are part of the currently selected layer. So you can zoom into the image by using Ctrl+ on the keyboard, or you can use Command+ and look for the blemishes. So to remove a blemish, for example this one here, hold down the Option key on the keyboard, or you can use the alternate key and hold it down. Left click on a clean area near the blemish and simply left click over the blemish to clean it up. So if at all I've gone faster for that process, you can simply play back or rewind and check on the settings once again. So let me repeat that. Remove these blemishes here, option, then make sure the size is small enough to cover the blemish. So copy clean skin by holding down the alternate key or the option key and left clicking to copy clean skin near the blemish, and left clicking over the blemish to clean it up and remove that blemish from that given area. So that is how you can simply clean up and remove the blemishes that may have remained in the image when we first remove the blemishes using our patch tool. So right now we are using the clone stamp tool to do the secondary blemish removal process on this very image. So take your time. So this is what we have right now. So you can see the before, after. So the next thing we're going to do, let's do a little bit of color grading and evening out of the skin tones. So to do this, we're simply going to come to the adjustments here and simply come and select the gradient map. So when you select gradient map, it is going to apply any other random color over the image. So when it applies this color, don't mind if at all yours is showing a different color. What we want to do is simply going to come and select the gradient icon, and after selecting it, just come and hide the gradient layer. So in this case, we just want to copy colors from this very image and make sure that we have uniform skin tones. So after doing that, simply come to the properties, and if at all don't see a property window open, just come to window and make sure properties is selected. So just come and simply left click on the properties window, and it's going to open up the gradient editor. Remember, we have selected the gradient icon and not the layer mask. So make sure the gradient icon is selected and not the layer mask, and simply make sure this layer is hidden. Open this up by left clicking on the color and simply left click on this. So this pointer is going to represent the darkest point of the skin tone, and this is going to represent the brightest point of the skin tone. So just want to copy colors from this skin area. So left click on this top or the left hand pointer and left click on the color option and click on the darkest point of the skin tone. So I'm just going to sample from that as the darkest point of the skin tone. Hit OK and left click on the brightest point. Make sure the location is 100. Then left click once again on the color and choose the brightest point of the skin tone. So I'm just going to use this as my brightest point of the skin tone and hit OK. Then choose the midtones or what you feel is the midpoint of the skin tone, and location, type in 50 so it can be in the middle, and choose what you feel is the midtones of the skin tone. So I'll just sample a color around there, and I feel like that is okay. So if at all you feel you're not comfortable with the given color, you can left click once again and change this color. So I feel like I should sample a very dark color, I think from right here on the nose area. I think that is better, and hit OK. So right now we have copied colors from this very image. So just want the rest of the image to look like the colors that we have just sampled, these very colors. Hit OK, and now activate this layer by turning on the visibility icon. You can close the property window, and after doing that, just come and change the image from normal, the blend mode from normal, and change it all the way down to color. And after changing it to color, select the white layer mask and simply press Ctrl I, or you can use Command I on the keyboard to invert that. Then come to the brushes and get the brush tool. So this time around we are using the brush tool. Make sure the hardness is set to 0 and soft round brush is selected. The mode is set to normal, opacity in the flat 100%. And with that done, make sure you have black and white on these two color swatches. So if at all you have any other random color on these color swatches, you can press D on the keyboard to change them to default, or you can simply left click on the tiny boxes right there to reset them to black and white. So make sure white is the foreground color, and you can increase on the size of the brush by using the bracket keys on the keyboard, and just come and start painting on the skin. So to paint, you left click and hold down and simply paint on the skin, just like that. So make sure you paint on every area that has skin, because right now we are trying to create even skin tones for this very image or this very model. So just come and paint I'm basically painting on each and every area that I feel has skin tone, and you have to take your time while doing this kind of process because you don't want to mess it up. So don't paint on the eyebrows or even the hair, don't do that. So don't mind if at all it is looking a little bit odd or it is looking a little bit overboard, because you're going to be correcting that. So just take your time as you're trying to paint over a skin, because you don't want to miss out or skip any area. So right now this is what we have. So don't forget the ear, just like that, and paint. So like I said, take your time as you're doing this process, because you don't want to leave out or skip some given areas. So if at all you paint an area that you didn't want to paint in the first place, make sure you switch the brush back to black and you can erase the color from that given area. So that is how you can easily create uniform skin tone transitions. So I'm just going to change mine back to white. White is going to be painting the color grading back into the image, and black is going to hide or erase the color grading from the image. So I'm just going to use Command minus, and this is what we have right now. So if at all you have painted extras, you can press X on the keyboard to switch the brush back to black, and you can erase those extras. So I'm just going to erase the extras from the hair area. So when you're done doing that, the next thing is going to be turning down or reducing on the opacity of the effect. So I'll just come the opacity and turn down the opacity so that the image can look better and natural and very realistic to the people that look at the image. So this is the before and after, and the image looks better and natural and realistic. So let's do a little bit more of the color grading process. So we're just going to come to adjustments and simply come and create a black and white adjustment layer, and change the blend mode to multiply, and come to the opacity and reduce on the opacity. So what this is going to do, it is going to increase on the contrast of the image. So we're going to come and add one more hue and saturation adjustment layer. Come and make sure we select the reds and simply take down the lightness of the reds, just like that, to reduce on the saturation levels of the reds in this very image. So this is what we have right now. So the next thing is going to be, let's add a little bit of shape and dimension to this very image. So we are going to be doing a little bit of dodging and burning to this very photo. So just come to the curves adjustment layer. So you come to adjustments and simply come and select curves. So what dodging and burning basically does is adding shape or dimension to the image, because sometimes when you're editing, we may flatten out the image. So when after come and create the curves, click in the middle to create a point and brighten up that until when you feel like the image is bright enough. Close this, and with the white line mask selected, press Ctrl I, or you can use Command I on the keyboard to invert the effect. And when you're brightening up the areas, will be dodging, and when you're darkening some areas, will be burning. So you're going to name that layer to dodge, since we just brightened up that. And you're going to come and click once again and create the opposite, which is the burn layer. Click in the middle and drag down to darken the image. With this selected, press Ctrl I, or you can use Command I, and you can double click and name that to burn. So after creating those, you can put them in a group, and you can name that group to dodge and burn, so that you can be organized. So dodge and burn. So after doing that, you're going to open up the group and come and get the brush tool, and make sure you have black and white on these color swatches. With the opacity of, you're just going to be using a very low flow of around 9%, and opacity at 100%. So you're going to dodge and burn the image. So select that area, make sure you have white as the foreground color, and just come and I'm just going to hit enter just like that. So we just want to dodge the highlights, so want to increase on the intensity of the highlights by brightening them up. So I'm just going to click just there and brighten up the highlights on the nose area just like that. I'm just going to brighten up that area. So if at all it is too much, I'm just going to undo. You can turn down the opacity just a little bit more, and you can simply come and continue the painting process. So I'm just going to paint on that area just like that to brighten it up. Paint a little bit on the forehead too, just like that. Come right here, you can even do a little bit on the lips just there and brighten up those areas. So basically we are creating shape or dimension to the image. So you can do the same for the burn, and remember burning is for the shadow. So I'm just going to burn there, and reduce on the size and burn on the nose area just like that. We didn't dodge this area. So when you feel like the effect is too much, you can always come and reduce on the opacity of a given layer. So I'll just reduce on the opacity of the dodge and my burn because I feel like they are a little bit too much. So this is the before after. So this is how you can dodge and burn the image in Photoshop to add or create shape and dimension to the image. So when you're done doing all this, the next thing is going to be, you can do eye whitening if at all you wish to, but I feel like the image is okay this way. So you can just come and create one more selective color adjustment layer and come and select blacks rather, and simply increase on the intensity of the blacks just like that, and simply cool down the image. I'll just take it down to around -3 is okay, and I feel like that is okay. So right now we are done editing the image in Photoshop. So this is the image basically before, after. We are done color grading and editing the image, and the next thing is going to be saving this very image. So in order to save the image so that it doesn't change in color when you post it or print it out, simply come right here to File, Export, and come down to Export As. So just come and click on Export As, and it's going to open up the Export As window right here. So after the image is done loading, the next thing is going to be coming and make sure you select the right format that you want to save the image, which is JPEG with the quality of 100%. Make sure you set the resample to bicubic sharper, and after selecting bicubic sharper, make sure you check these two options, that is convert sRGB and embed color profile. So what these two options are going to help you, they are basically going to enable your images or your photos not change in color when you print them out or when you post them on social media. And after that, simply come and click on Export and choose a location where you want to save your images. So this is it for this video, and if at all you have enjoyed this, simply like this video and don't forget to subscribe this channel. If at all you have been watching and you're not subscribed to this channel, Ronnix from ronnixphotography, thank you for watching, and see you in yet more videos on this channel. Don't forget to keep practicing and also keep creating.